Well, nothing's going to mess with your financial confidence faster than comparing your savings to your brother, your coworkers, maybe even that guy on YouTube that said he retired at 35. But your retirement number isn't a competition. That's what we're going to talk about today, is figuring out how to figure out what your number is, how much you need, and if you can retire with only $1 million.
Welcome to the My Retirement Clarity Podcast, where our goal is simple: to help you close the gap between what you know and what you implement. The team at Perkins Wealth Management does this by helping good people make great decisions so they can enjoy an amazing retirement. And now, here's your host and financial advisor, Lee Perkins.
Welcome in. Glad to have you on My Retirement Clarity. Once again, I'm Ben George with Lee Perkins at Perkins Wealth Management. Lee, I know we're going to jump into the savings and comparison number, but I know as we are kind of around the holidays right now, you just recently had Cake Day in another successful event, right?
Yeah. So people ask all the time, what is Cake Day? Because it's something that we do promote around here. It's just a day where we get together with our clients, invite everybody in. We set the office up in like a big reception. We have a lot of refreshments, and we cut up cakes that we give to everybody, and just a time to get together. But every client family that comes, we give a really good pound cake too. It's a full-size pound cake that everybody gets. I always tell people it's not about the cake, even though the cake is great. It's just a great time for people to come. We probably had maybe throughout the entire morning, maybe 130, 140 clients stop by in a 3-hour time period. And just, we really enjoy it. And our team loves it. It's a good thing we do every year, the first Wednesday in December.
Okay, very good. Yes, that's the kind of thing people will remember. They don't remember, the conversation you had about what to be invested in back in January or February. They remember Cake Day, don't they?
They do. They absolutely do.
I love that. You guys have anything else coming up? I know we're about to get to the, through the holidays and into the new year, but anything else on the calendar coming up?
Yes. Yeah. So we obviously we have several retirement workshops that we've planned. I've got a whole calendar of those throughout the year, but a big event that we have coming up is in February. It's Galentine's Day. And up until maybe 2 years ago, this will be our third year of doing it, I'd never heard the term Galentine's, but it is a ladies only event that we do here. We don't do it at our office. We do it at another location, and we'll have 75 or 90 females. They'll bring some of their friends, and just a great time. We'll do a brunch and some fun games, and everybody walks away with a little gift bag. So it's just our way of showing our female clients how much we love them and appreciate them. And lots of times they will bring friends of theirs. And so it's a fun time, a lot of fun. No guys allowed.
So me and you will have to stay away. But if you do want to get in touch and want to go ahead and reserve a spot, you can do that at 478-254-3550, or just log on to myretirementclarity.com to learn more about that event and other stuff that's coming up. You'll learn more right there on the website. Absolutely. All right, Lee, let's jump into this conversation because I think this is interesting. What sparked this conversation is another question that you got recently that I thought would be worth presenting here first, and we can kind of dig into how to figure out what that number is. But the question that started this is, I thought I'd done a good job of saving over the years, but it seems like I'm probably behind where I should be. My brother has nearly 2 million saved, and it seems that most of my colleagues at work are in a similar stratosphere. But my husband and I are barely over the $1 million mark, and we're now in our early 60s. So what should we be doing to get caught up? I'm guessing, Lee, this is something that you probably hear a lot is, hey, I'm not matching up with my neighbor down the street or my brother or sister, whatever it is, right?
We hear it all the time, Ben. I think we've referenced this on the show before, and it's pretty cool that we get to kind of designate a whole episode to tackle this topic. I've always said in the past that comparison is the thief of joy, and it's true, because when this person that we're referencing here talks about their brother having $2 million saved for retirement, they don't have $2 million. Do they feel like they're behind? Could they be behind? Maybe. Are they behind? Maybe not, because your ability to retire the way you want to retire it doesn't simply depend on the amount of money that you have saved for retirement. There's a whole lot of other factors that come into play. And one of them is, what does your retirement look like? What does that quality of life look like in retirement? What are you going to do? And specifically, how much are you going to spend every month or every year in retirement? Because, I know I sound like a broken record on this part, but your expenses, how much you have going out every month, really dictates how much money you need. And I've met people that that have, $3, $4, $500,000 of saved for retirement that are going to be fine in retirement because they have other sources of income and they don't have a lot of expenses. So it's a personal decision. So just be leery of comparing what you have with what somebody else has, because it's not always an apples to apples comparison.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times, it's asking yourself, are you actually behind, or do you just kind of assume that you are? And, to this example, you could actually be in better shape at the $1 million mark than somebody else at 2 million, right? I mean, just depending on what you're looking to do in retirement, how much, all the sources of income you have. There's a lot this goes into this equation.
100%. That's exactly right. And I'll tell you where people also get into a trap, the comparison trap. And I had this conversation with somebody today at work, and it's a returns conversation. People really love to tout their returns and talk about that. And you got to have a really good idea of what goes into your returns before you start comparing your returns with somebody else's, because you could be investing in a middle of the road type of investment that is designed to give you a 6 to 8% return. And your buddy could be designed, his investment strategy could be designed. He's got the foot on the gas and he's trying to get 20 or 25%. Your returns are not going to be equal. So what your objectives are not going to be equal either. So I just try to tell people, just don't talk to others too much about the specifics of your money, returns, all those kind of things, and how much it is. It just doesn't do you any good. And it's comparison is going to steal. It's the thief of joy. So don't do it.
Hey folks, Lee Perkins here. I wanted to tell you about our brand new book called Next Phase, How to Retire in a Year or Less Without Regrets. It's all about helping you prepare for the next phase of your life, whatever that looks like for you. So, if you're ready to make the most of your next phase, or if you're already retired and aren't sure you're doing all you can to get the most out of your retirement, then you'll want a copy of this book. All you have to do is text Next Phase to 478-475-2050, and we'll send you a copy right away. You can also access additional resources and register for one of our upcoming workshops at our website, www.myretirementclarity.com. Thanks for listening. Now back to the show.
And it's a good reminder, too, there's always somebody out there that's doing better than you. Doesn't matter how rich you are, if you're Mark Zuckerberg, whoever, right? There's always somebody doing better. So comparison does not equal planning. And I know, just kind of reassuring people, that's oftentimes what they want, is that emotional reassurance. I mean, you deal with this with clients, right? I'm sure you've had plenty of examples of people coming in saying, I'm not in as good a shape as I want to be, when reality was that they probably were, right? I mean, there's oftentimes you find out that people are in much better shape than they ever assumed just because they haven't been planning.
That's true. That also, the conversation I had today sort of dovetailed into that, because this person knows that I'm a big fan of telling my clients to spend their money. And they wanted to know, well, how much can I spend? I'm like, well, it depends on how you're investing, how much you need. And they were really kind of surprised at how much I think they can spend. And so that means they're not taking everything into consideration. And by the time you take in a couple of Social Securities and one pension, in the instance of this person, they don't have to take that much of a distribution from their assets. And all of a sudden they're bringing home more money in retirement than they're bringing home right now, with one of them still working, and they're going to be in a better spot. But they've never done the work and used, of course, the software and things like that we use for our clients to make sure that we give them those numbers, because I want to be able to show somebody exactly what their retirement looks like financially before they pull their trigger and retire. So a lot of work goes into that, and I think it's important, very important, that people do that. That's more important than just comparing your return. Your return is what it is. Let's do the work to know what that return actually means for you on a monthly basis in retirement.
Yeah, and you can schedule a time to meet with Lee and start doing that work at talkwithjlp.com. Again, talkwithjlp.com will give you the chance to get on his calendar and begin having those initial conversations and talking about some of these things and what you need to do to get closer and closer to those retirement goals that you have. All right, for this question specifically then, Lee, let's just assume that this person is behind. The brother is correct here and says that you need to be saving more. What can you be doing to catch up? What are some strategies that maybe you can use around 60 to get caught up?
Yeah. So when somebody's around 60, the tendency or the temptation is to let's step on the gas from an investment standpoint and take on more risk. You can certainly do that, but it doesn't come without its own risk overall. I know from an investment standpoint, it comes with more risk, but if the market doesn't turn out the way it could be, you could set yourself back. So I don't want to necessarily change the investment strategy because that could be dictated by how much longer you plan to work. I would rather you look at other things like, where is money going right now that we could possibly redirect, cut back on maybe some of the expenses and save a little bit more? Can we accelerate the contributions to our 401ks or IRAs to add more money into the mix every single month? And for a lot of people, they can do that because most people don't know how much they spend every month because they don't have to live on a budget because they've got plenty of money coming in while they retire. And so I think it's important to, before you retire and you kind of have to live on a budget, possibly not everybody needs to, before you retire, go ahead and start living on a budget, knowing where that money, just so you'll know where the money's going. And that's the first step. If you know where you're spending money, then that's the blueprint on how you can redirect money if there's money to be redirected. If you can't cut expenses, if you're living bare bones and contributing what you can to your retirement, and you've done the work to determine that that's still not going to be enough, then you're going to have to change. You're going to have to go out and get more income from somewhere. Maybe that's taking on an additional part-time job. Maybe that's changing a career to try to increase your salary or your earnings potential over the next 3 to 5 years. You can certainly do that. That's not what people want to hear, but that is that may be what you have to do. So don't depend on the market to make up for your lack of savings maybe early on to help you get caught up, because that could work, but it might not.
Yeah, so there's a couple different approaches. You can do more to save, right? But you can also cut back in some areas and maybe keep your expenses down and give you a little more flexibility there in retirement. But the goal is to have a plan, right? And to sit down with someone that can actually walk you through this, talk about the options and make sure you understand what you need to do to be able to retire when you're ready to. And that's what working with JL Perkins Wealth Management can do for you. If you have questions for Lee, you want to sit down and talk, right? It all begins with the conversation. Just go to talkwithjlp.com. You can get on Lee's calendar right there and be off and running and be talking about some of these things, how much you need, where the income coming from. There's a lot of these pieces are part of that initial discussion, aren't they, Lee?
Yeah, absolutely. And I maybe we can kind of close this out a little bit on kind of what we've talked about today. And it's a story that I'll share 2 stories when I'm doing some of my public workshops about people not really knowing how much they need. I met years ago with somebody, $2.5 million, plenty of money, no debt, mid 60s. And I asked her, what's the purpose of the money? And, she said, well, we want to enhance our, keep our main, standard of living in retirement, plenty of retirement income coming in, federal employee, and one was a teacher. So got pension money. This money is just gravy. She wanted to buy a cabin in the mountains. And I said, how much is a cabin? She said, $400,000. I'm like, man, write the check. But he was an engineer, didn't want to do it. They just never pulled the trigger. Met with them like 6 years later. Now they got $5 million. And I'm like, how's the mountain house? And they never made the decision to do that because he said, well, now that house is $600,000. I'm like, man, you got plenty of money. Well, now they're pushing 70 years old. And so they just never did it. And ultimately, she passed away, never got her mountain house. And that guy's still working, still saving money for what? I have no idea, but he's never going to run out of money. So I compare that story with somebody that met with probably 4 years ago, not near that amount of money. And they just wanted to know, can we retire? He was tired of doing what he wanted to do. And it was going to be close. Only had about $600,000. And we did the work for him. And the numbers it bore out for them that they could do it. So they kind of took that leap of faith and did it. And man, they're living their best life now. They've checked off a bunch of bucket list items and done everything they wanted to do. And now they're starting to give money to their grandkids.
Nice.
It's just a different perspective. Somebody that didn't have a ton of money and somebody that did have a ton of money. And man, their lifestyles in retirement are completely different. And that's what we want to help our clients do every year, is to make the best decisions possible and live, make their next phase their best phase, which is, that's the book that we talk about all the time on the show.
Yeah, I love those stories. I mean, they're perfect examples of why you work with an advisor and why you have a plan so that you can feel comfortable that you're not chasing, the returns or the comparisons and trying to catch up with someone else. Be happy with what you have. And, what you have might work really well for how you want to live retirement and be more than enough in this case. So great example, and really a good thing to be thinking about as you address this number for retirement. And again, get in touch with Lee if you have questions. Talkwithjlp.com. You can also request that book, Next Phase. Just text the word Next Phase to 478-475-2050 to get your hands on that. But great conversation, Lee. I think this is very valuable to kind of be hearing this, even if you understand it and you know that you shouldn't be comparison. Having that reinforcement sometimes really helps.
Absolutely. I appreciate your time here today. Hopefully this was a useful topic, maybe a shorter show today, but a useful and a practical topic for the listeners today. So good stuff. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for being a part of My Retirement Clarity. We'll talk to you again soon.
Hey there, Lee Perkins here. If you're like a lot of folks, you've been listening to this podcast for a long time now. But I've got an important question for you. Have you implemented any of the ideas that we've discussed on the show? If you haven't, what are you waiting on? You know you're not getting any younger. So here's my challenge. Don't just consume the content. Our number one goal for this podcast is to help you close the gap between what you know and what you implement. So if you're ready to implement, take that first step today and visit www.talkwithjlp.com and schedule a 15-minute phone call with one of our advisors, and we'll help you close the gap between what you know and what you implement so you can enjoy the next phase of your life. Now is your time. Don't procrastinate any longer.
Investment advisory services are offered by J.L. Perkins Wealth Management, a registered investment advisor and insurance agency. Information is for illustrative purposes only and does not constitute tax, legal, or investment advice. Always consult with a qualified tax, legal, or investment professional before taking any action.